How's it going, guys? Today we're going to be doing an overview of the machine called Hokkaido from Proving Grounds. I've already completed this box, but I'm going to go ahead and go back through it. We're going to start off with the mmap scan. I'm going to use RUSScan, and with the mmap options -pn-sc-sv, let's go ahead and look at the output. Here we see that port 53 is open, port 88. So it's already looking like a domain controller. We also see port 80. So let's check out port 80. We see SMB is open, LDAP is open. We also see MSSQL is open, but we need credentials to access that. We see LDAP is open. We see some more LDAP ports. We see RDP. And we also see these two ports. So I went ahead and Googled this port and also put port hack the box to see if anybody else had a similar machine with this port open. So right here it says, along with TCP 8530 and 8531, which are IIS ports, some Googling will show they are WSUS associated. So I always start off on port 80. And let's also go back to the mmap scan, and we also see this right here. So let's add these to our Etsy host file. And it's an IIS website. So we went ahead and ran ForexBuster. Always run ForexBuster with big.txt first, and then I use raf large files, raf large directories, raf large words, but we weren't able to find anything interesting there. We also try SMB client with null login. So let's go. And as you can see, null login did not work. It didn't show any list of directories. So let's try enum for Linux ng and see if we can get any useful information from here. And I'll also try RPC client with null login. And as you can see, we didn't get anything useful from enum for Linux. So let's try RPC. And going on to hack tricks, we can see all of the commands for RPC. So let's try enum dom users. And all of these commands, none of them worked. We don't have proper access, so that tells me that we need credentials. And at this point, I ran out of ideas. So always when you run out of ideas and you feel as though you can't get into the machine, always try to brute force. So we're going to try and brute force using Kerberoast, and we're going to use XanoNet 10 million usernames. And here we have an info user. So we're going to let this run. After running that for a couple minutes, we see that we found a couple of usernames. So let's copy this username list, paste it in here. Now let's clean it up. I'm going to go ahead and start it again, just let it run in the background. Now let's use NXC. Let's get the IP address. NXC SMB -u. We're going to do users.txt and then -p. And we're also going to do users.txt. And then we're going to do --no brute force. And we're also going to do -- continue on success. And no brute force pretty much makes each line run together. So if we look at the usernames.txt, it will put in info as the username and info as the password. It will put in administrator as the username, administrator as the password, so on and so forth. And continue on success will just keep it running. As we could see from the first scan, we have some valid credentials with info, and XC. And let's put in info. And let's do shares. And here we see we have a list of shares. We have admin, but we don't have any access to admin or the C drive. And we see this homes share. We have write access. We have IPC, net login, sysvol, update service packages, wsus content, and we don't have access to wsus temp. So since we have write access, let's try to get a show. So whenever you have write access to a share, always try to use psexec, but as you can see, that doesn't work. We also tried wimexec, and as we can see, wmi-exec is not going to work either. So let's try to use the credentials to look at the shares. So we don't need the -L option anymore. Homes. We see that we have some more users, but all we see is 0, so there's nothing in any of their drives or their direct. There's nothing here, nothing in any of them. So let's just copy these usernames and we can just add it to our existing users.txt file and get rid of all of these extra spaces. All right, now we have the list of users. So let's try the same thing that we just did. Let's go ahead and pause this. And we also see that we got a new user maintenance. Let's run this same nxc command again to see if there are any other credentials that we can find. And whenever you find a valid list of users, always use get npusers.py because you do not need valid credentials to run this. And as you can see, that didn't work. So let's go back and look at SMB client again, and let's look at some different shares. Look at IPC $. There's nothing in here. Now let's look at net logon. See temp, cd temp there, and we see a file. And let's go to sysvol. So it's the same file from the other directory. So let's exit there. It's nothing. And let's go to the last one that we have access to. So whenever you get credentials, always check your shares for anything. And this one says it's 0. This anonymous check file.txt is, there's nothing in there. Password reset.txt, and we see there is a start 123 exclamation point password here, and let's run it. So we see it's valid for discovery. Let's also try for RDP. And let's try for LDAP as well. Alright, so let's go back to SMB and check to see if he has any other shares available. So it's the same shares access, so we won't find any other files available there. So let's try another Impacket tool. Let's try Impacket get user SBNs since we have credentials. And as you can see, we get the KRB5 TGS hash for discovery, but we already have that user. And we also have it for maintenance. Hash.txt. Paste it in there, save it. So let's go ahead and add on a format. As you can see right here, we can use KRB5 TGS. And I just listed those by using the tab option. Alright, well let's use hashcat. And let's also add rocku.txt. So here, Googling, we can see that the mode for hashcat is 13.100. So let's copy that. So as you guys can see, even from using John the Ripper and hashcat, we were unable to crack the maintenance hash for the maintenance user. So maybe we missed something. So let's go back to NXC. So we tried RDP, we tried LDAP, SMB. Looks like we missed MSSQL. So let's try MSSQL to see if we have valid credentials for the MSSQL server. And as you can see, we do. So let's use Impacket. And now we see we have a shell. So let's go to Hacktricks and look at our commands for MSSQL. Let's go ahead and use select name from master DBO sys databases to list all the databases. And as you can see, we have one non-default database. Let's try to connect to that. Our current user does not have access to this database. Let's go ahead and use this command to list all users. And there's a HR app database reader and a SA account, which is disabled. Well, it really wouldn't make sense to get a reverse shell with the current discovery user since we already have their credentials. So maybe we need to switch users to the account that we just listed. Using the help command, we see there is a enum impersonate. So let's try that. And it looks like we can impersonate this HR app database reader user. Here we can see that after using enum impersonate and listing the users that we can impersonate, we use execute as login and that user. So let's go ahead and copy this and change the user to HR app db -reader. And now we can see that we are hrap db reader. Now let's try to connect to that share. So let's copy this. And it says change database context to HR app. So now we are in that database, we have access. So now we're going to go ahead and list all the tables within the database. Once we select all from this sysauth table, we can see that it lists this hrap service credential. All right, let's try it again. and change the change the backslash to a forward slash, because we see we get this error, can't find workgroup domain. Alright, so let's take the password out of here. So we already have all of these users, so that's not helpful. Let's go see if there are any descriptions with passwords listed. As we can see, there are not. Sometimes you can find passwords right here. Here we can see which groups each user is a part of. And there's a staff group with all of these users. And then there's also a IT group. This IT group has Hazel Green, Molly Smith, Alexandra Little, and there's also a management group. Let's exit out of here. Let's try to get some Bloodhound data. I couldn't get it to work with NXC. Let's also try HAERO. For some reason, it's not recognizing the NS option, so let's just try to use bloodhound.py. And now we get that zip file and import the data. Look up the users that we already have access to. Mark his own. So looking up the HR app service account, we went ahead and went to node info and first degree object control. And as you can see, there's a 1 right here. And we see we have generic write options over Hazel Green. Right click, click help, go to Linux abuse. And we see we can use targetedKerberoast.py, or we can use pywhisker.py. So let's try to use both of them. We can see that this tool brings the following additional feature. For each user without SPNs, it tries to set one. Abuse of a write permission on the service principal name attribute. Print the Kerberos hash and delete temporary SPNs set for that operation. So we're getting some errors running targeted Kerberos. So before I change anything, let's run pywhiskers. As you can see here, we're getting an error for both tools. So let's go ahead and revert the machine. And I'll be back once it reverts, and we're going to try and run those tools once again. And as you can see, it's now working. We just needed to restart the machine. And let's go back to see if the other one is working. And as you can see, it gives us our password right here. And down here, we see that a TGT can now be obtained using PK, INIT tools. But if we can crack these hashes for Hazel Green, because we have Hazel Green hash up here, then we won't need to be doing that. I realized I lost my audio for the rest of the video. So as you can see, we were able to decrypt the hash. Then we look up Hazel Green on Bloodhound and go into Juggernaut sec. We're looking at his enum for Linux output, and we see that there's a service desk group, and here it says, very often when we find IT support, type of custom groups or users with help desk, service desk support, IT, etc. in their name, there's a pretty good chance that the group user will have delegated privileges that allow them to force a password reset. And if we look at our and then for Linux output, we see that Hazel Green, Molly Smith, and Alexandra Little, they're all a part of the IT group. So let's look up Molly Smith on Bloodhound. And we marked Molly Smith as own just to see if we had a path to the administrator. And as you can see, we have a path. We need to RDP onto the machine as Molly Smith, and then we can DC sync. So we're gonna go ahead and log in with RPC client with Hazel Green, and we're gonna attempt to change Molly Smith's password, but as you can see, it doesn't work. And with this machine, all you need to do is restart the machine and it will solve that issue. And as you can see, I restarted the machine and now it's working. We're gonna use Remnia to RDP into the machine. We're also gonna set up a share folder so that it's easy to share any type of files between the Kali machine and the Windows machine. We're gonna go ahead and open up command prompt, see if we have any special privileges, and we don't. So we're gonna go ahead and try and copy over WinPs. And first we're gonna go and make a temp directory. Then we started a Python server and copied over WinPs any.exe, but as you can see, Windows security is blocking us from copying over files. Even if you press allow on device, once you go to run WinPs or any other executable, it will quarantine it again. At this point, I was stuck in, I asked TJ Knoll for help, the creator of the machine, and he said, did you try to open up the command prompt as an administrator? I said yes, but it prompted for a password. He said, did you put in Molly Smith's password? I said no, because I assumed that since it asked for a password, it wasn't going to work. He said, never assume, always try. And as you can see, after putting in Molly Smith password and username, we were able to open up a CMD as the administrator. And here we see that we have SE backup privileges. And with SE backup privileges, we can copy the SAM and system files. So we're going to copy them over to the temp drive using reg save. And then we're going to copy those files back over to the Kali machine. And here I'm showing the share drive as I told you guys to set up earlier. And if you click on this PC, we can see that it is set up. So we're gonna go to the temp directory in a different file explorer tab, copy over those files, and then go back to the share drive and paste them in. Now we're gonna use seclists.dump.py in order to crack or dump the administrator hash from the system and SAM file. And as you can see, the machine is now pwned and we have access to the domain controller with the administrator hash. And now we're gonna run --ntds in order to dump everyone's hash. Thanks for watching.